Hi there, welcome back to the Mindset Check podcast. I'm your host, Misha McKittrick. This is a podcast where I believe that as you take time for a mindset check, you have more power than you think you do. And where we also believe that when we make it a priority to consciously, naturally release feel-good chemicals in our body, we completely change the experience we have. Some of you have been asking, how is life with a puppy? And you know what? I'm here to report. It's ridiculous in so many amazing and good ways. Okay, like I'm not at the point yet where I'm like, oh my gosh, our life would forever be different without this puppy. But I can see that could come on the horizon at this point. It's so wonderful to see the bond start to happen. First of all, Blue is such a great puppy. Like he's doing great. He's responding well. The boys are all keeping him super clean. You know, it's great to see that excitement that they have to be able to interact with him and the pride that they have when they teach him something. So that for me is like worth all kinds of payoffs. So I'm happy to report that things are going really, really well with the puppy. Thank you for asking. Also, before we jump in, I just want to take a moment and talk about the season that we're in, fall. I love fall. And I don't know that it's my favorite season. I really, really like it. I love bringing out the seasons, though, that we have. And fall seems to be one of specific flavors. So I created this drink and I wanted to share this with you just to simply inspire you to do something that feels like fall to you. Maybe you're able to go see the leaves changing. Maybe that's past, for you, wherever you live. It always happens for us really late in the fall season. But maybe there's, something that you can participate, be it flavors, a pumpkin patch, being outside with a sweater on and a hot drink, just something that like allows you to soak up the season. So here's the drink that I came up with that I just kind of took this like virgin caramel apple sangria and I just put a little twist on it. So I just mixed kind of like an Italian soda. I put ice, apple cider, a little bit of cream, a little caramel flavoring, and sparkling water. And then of course we dipped the rims in caramel and brown sugar. Hello. We put a little whipped cream and drizzled some caramel on the top because you know what? We're bougie like that. And it's so fun to create something that's fun because it allows us to check into, feeling more than just mundane. So I just wanted to share that with you in hopes to inspire a little bit more living in your own soul, in your own life. And now let's jump into the podcast. A while ago on our family text thread, my brother-in-law was updating us on the status of his chickens. He said, "We adopted a chicken from our neighbors. It randomly showed up at their house and no one claimed it. She had been attacked by something and she had a nasty infected wound on her back and under her wing. I wasn't sure if she would pull through, but she did. She's healing nicely, but the other chickens can't help but peck her wound all the time and pull out all the feathers around it. She's actually much bigger than our other chickens, but I think with her being injured, she couldn't fend them off, so she's ended up on the bottom of the pecking order." Isn't it interesting that chickens have a pecking order? I think that their behavior can teach us really powerful insights about healing and the energy that we put into the world of all of the people that we interact with, right? Our environment. And the thing about chickens having this strict pecking order is, whether we realize it or not, this idea is a part of us too. And it's in a interesting twist of a way that I want to show you how that applies to us. When we walk into new environments, we might feel like we're at the bottom of the pecking order.
especially when we're wounded or vulnerable or healing from something tough. And just like the chickens, the world around us can sense that energy. And it's compound. It's not just that they're sensing it. We're putting this vibration out, and these things reverberate back to us. But here's the insight I want to share. It's not always really about the circumstances that we find ourselves in, right? It's about the energy that we're putting out that determines how other people treat us. It's what determines what we attract to us. And if we walk into life wounded and unsure, having been betrayed in the past, projecting our fear and our doubt, others might unknowingly, subconsciously reinforce that. It's not that they're trying to hurt you, it's that equal energy attracts to each other, right? And so we are going to get back what we put out. But when we heal from the inside, we take care of our energy and we fill ourselves up. And by doing this, we can shift our entire experience. So I want to share with you an experiment that's in a book called Supernatural from Joe Dispenza. I love this book. I geek out about this book. And to be honest, like I could probably read it over and over and over and still learn and still absorb from this book. It's fascinating. There was this experiment that they did in this book that essentially helps us see that when oxytocin, which is a chemical inside of our body that when it's elevated, we feel intense feelings of love and forgiveness, compassion, joy, wholeness, and empathy. When that chemical is elevated, it's difficult to hold a grudge. And they wanted to do an experiment around this. And so this is the experiment that they did. They had 49 participants and they played a variation of what is known as the trust game. They played it 12 times. In this game, there is an investor with a certain amount of money, and the investor must decide whether to give any of the money to another player that's called the trustee. When the investor gives money to the trustee, the money is automatically tripled. So if you're an investor and you're going to be giving some of the money to the trustee, you think, well, we can both win. We can both get what I have and more, right? But that idea also comes with doubt, right? Like if I share this money with the trustee, then the trustee has the opportunity to keep all of the money. The money is tripled and they can keep all of it and not give any of it back to me. They're in this major decision of whether they should share and increase or keep to themselves to simply defend and protect themselves, right? That's what it's called, like playing defensively as we go through life. So what they decided is like, okay, well, what if half of the contestants had higher oxytocin levels as they were playing the game? They put a little squirt of oxytocin in their nose, this chemical. And by the end of this, y'all are going to be going like, where do I get that? And I'll teach that to you. But here's the thing. They put a squirt of oxytocin in half of the contestants' noses, and in the other half, they just put a squirt of placebo. So none of them knew what they were getting. And the researchers took fMRI images of the investors' brains as they made their decisions regarding the amount of money to invest. And an fMRI machine is going to show what is lighting up in the brain as they're making these decisions, okay? So after the first 6 rounds, the investors were given feedback about their investments, and they were notified if their trust had been betrayed or if, the trustee had shared the money with them. And they found out that about half of the time their trust had been betrayed. So what was interesting is that the participants who received the placebo before playing, okay, so no chemicals, they felt angry and betrayed at the outcome. And so they invested much less in the closing 6 rounds. But the participants who received a squirt of oxytocin invested the same amount as they had the first 6 rounds. That shows us that they didn't need to rely on positive results to make future decisions. That they were able just to make a decision, and they were able to be in a different energy. That's the key part of the whole thing. They were able to be in a different energy because of the chemicals that were in their body. So you can kind of think through, well, what happened in the experiment? Is it better for us to live a little bit more defensively? And you have to remember all of the principles of life come back to this. So it's not just, the way that the money shakes out. It's about the experiences that we continue to attract into our life and the experiences outside of maybe this experience of money that we continue to attract into our life. You see, like if we start to assign thoughts that like life rips us off and what we focus on becomes, then life is going to continue to rip us off. But if we continue to have these thoughts of abundance and overflowing love, then what's going to come to us, right? And so the energy, to answer the question, if any of you had that pop up, like, well, what's actually better for us? Because sometimes my brain goes there and thinks that way too. But the important part is understanding that when we become betrayed in life, naturally we become resigned and cynical. That's a natural state that we slip into, unless we do something about it. Unless we choose to heighten this release of feel-good, positive chemicals in our life. So it's interesting when we bring it back around to the chickens, right? Because I kind of wonder what would have happened if Jordan would have let that chicken heal before putting it in with all of the other chickens. Ooh, that's juicy to think about, right? That when we really take time to heal our wounds, both physical and emotional, we shift the energy that we bring into the situations. And it doesn't mean that we have to be isolated. Okay, but sometimes we do need to be isolated from circumstances that are perpetuating the things that we're experiencing. Because if we can do that, then we can allow ourselves the space to form new patterns, to form different energy, and then we can come into the world differently. With chickens, they assert dominance to be able to rise to the top of the pecking order. And for us, I want us to think about it, that it's less about forcing other people to treat you better and more about when we project a healed, confident version of ourselves, that the energy that we bring influences the environment around us more than your environment itself ever could. When we unlock and allow the possibility to live in love, even after betrayal, we step out of the shackles of cynicism and we bring forward different energy. When we bring forward different energy, you teach people how to treat you by the energy that you project. And you rise not because you're bigger or stronger, but because you've done the inner work. We also attract differently based on the energy that we project. And we allow for a different pecking order to exist. Instead of that of power and dominance, we essentially use, quote, being on top of the pecking order to lead out by example with love. I heard a quote about leaders who are really good leaders. They don't assert themselves above the people that they get to interact with. They are in front simply because they know where to go. It's so much better than the harsh pecking order. And just like a chicken takes time and retreats into themselves to heal, we also gain incredible power by going within. And to realize that we really do have this ability to choose the chemicals that we release inside of our body. And this always, right, like our podcasts so often come back to heart coherence, because when we are in a state of heart coherence is when we are releasing these chemicals. This is when we take time to be alone so that we change and alter our internal experience, the way that we go forward in our life.
And that's just all possible. It's all possible with the time that you spend with your own self, being mindful of how important it is to simply sit with ourselves for 15 minutes a day and feel really good feelings, right? That's essentially what you're doing. When you are in heart coherence, you're in that meditative state, you come into this, once you learn how to come into it, you come into this state and your heart feels like it is growing and beating and sort of growing bigger than itself, out, kind of outside of your chest. And it is such an expansive and beautiful feeling. And that's when you know, right? When you feel your heartbeat, when you feel the peace inside of yourself, that's when you know you are experiencing this state. And in this state, you just can imagine that there's this little pump inside of you, just pumping all of those good chemicals all the way through, allowing your brain to activate completely differently, and therefore helping you in the way that you function, especially after experiencing hard things in life, especially after experiencing betrayal like they experienced in the game, in the experiment. It's something that completely resets us. And I wanted to bring that forward to you to help you reinstill the importance of you taking the time to make sure that you're sitting in that energy every single day. And I hope that you see that by doing that, you have more power than you think you do. All right, my friend, I hope you love today's podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so that you make sure that you don't miss any future episodes. Also, if you like this message, you might love the episode in season 2, episode 67, called People Treat You How You Treat Yourself. It's all about helping us understand the ways that we coach other people around us to treat us. Also, to be able to experience the ability to release those feel-good chemicals that we talked about in the episode, to be able to release those chemicals in your body that help you through life and help you welcome a new reality, I invite you to participate in my 6-week Heart Sync class, where you learn how to be in a state of heart coherence and change the chemicals you're currently experiencing in your body. You can find all of the information for that course in the comments, in the show notes, or you can go to myfriendmisha.com/heartsync. Before we leave, I want to remind you that what you do with your alone time alters the experience of your social time, the way you experience the world and the life that you are living, thus allowing you the ability to check into an incredibly expansive life. Until next time, my friend.